Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 248 of the Zach Kroll Sports Podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021. It is around 6:30 at night, and we have another loaded show for you guys today. It's just a quick intro. It's time to preview baseball season, and I have an epic show. Two guests joining me today as we go across the MLB and give you guys our full predictions for the MLB season. I won't be alone. Two guests, Bryan Krinick and Bryan Acker, will be joining me. And yeah, it was a great show, and I really appreciate them joining me. Take a listen. Hope everyone enjoys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of the Zach Kroll Sports Podcast. We are here today talking baseball. This is one of my favorite episodes of the year, of the sports calendar, as it is time to preview the upcoming MLB season. It is Tuesday, the end of March. Opening day will be Thursday, and it is time to preview each and every team in the MLB, and I'm not going to be doing it alone, because joining me today are two very special guests. And it's funny because just under a year ago, these two gentlemen joined me and we previewed the 60-game season. We previewed the season that, to be honest, we had no idea what to expect. There were so many new things, but one thing I'll say is it feels so nice to have a normal 162-game season back in Major League Baseball. So let's get started. Joining me today, I'll introduce him first. He's our resident Met fan. My guy, Bryan Acker, joins the show. Ack, how we doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Let's go Mets.
No problem, man. I just wanted to say, as a fellow Met fan, I'm really looking forward to the season. It's a new era of Met baseball, the first year under new owner Steve Cohen. We heard the announcements last night about the black jerseys coming back. I'm excited about that. There's a new sizzle, a new kind of buzz around this Mets team that I'm really looking forward to. And also joining me, our resident Yankee fan, a friend of the show, my guy Bryan Krinick joins the show. Krin, thanks for joining me. How we doing today?
What is going on, boys? I am excited for baseball to start, and I'm even more excited for what is this, year 2, year 3 of the baseball preview podcast? I don't even know, man.
It's year 2, but, I believe 2 years ago, in 2019, we were just getting going a little bit. Not really any official recordings, but it's always good to talk baseball with you, man. I appreciate both you guys coming on. And we are actually going to start with the American League today. We are going to go across each division and give you guys our predictions for the division winner. And then at the end, we're going to recap with awards and who is winning the World Series. So let's start off with the American League East. And the New York Yankees come in to this division as the favorite, even though last year it was the Rays who ended up taking home the division crown. Tampa Bay also represented the American League in the World Series, but they do lose a little bit. So I don't know about you guys. I assume we're all on the same page that the Yankees are the favorite going into this division. So, Krinick, I'll give you the floor. As a Yankee fan, what are some of the main storylines you're looking at in the Bronx heading into this season?
Yeah, man. Yankees, as always, they got to stay healthy. And, we can't even get through spring training without some injuries. So the bullpen is hurt to start the year. We got Zach Britton, Justin Wilson. They're both going to be on the IL to start the year. And Luke Voigt, he's going to start the year on IL. So, yeah, injuries, always a storyline. Starting pitching is going to be a storyline. And, yeah, just if the bat's got to hit.
Yeah, so let's get into that starting pitching, because that's one big storyline. I agree with you going into the Yankees season. And Garrett Cole obviously comes back year 2 in pinstripes. He was pretty good last year. I would say he did a pretty good job living up to the hype of that big contract. But it's guys like Corey Kluber. It's guys like Jamison Tyone. The return of Domingo Germán along with Jordan Montgomery. It's looking like that's going to be the Yankees' starting five right now. But one thing I'll say about the Yankees, though, is even though on paper those names look really good, I'll say this. Losing a guy like Masahiro Tanaka, that is a big loss, and we all know that he wasn't the best regular season pitcher, and his best game was in the playoffs, but at the same time, I feel like even though Kluber and Tyone, they have a very high ceiling, if those signings work out, the Yankees could be really, really good. But at the same time, both of those guys didn't really pitch last year. Plus, I was a little bit surprised that Davy Garcia didn't make the rotation. What are your thoughts about the selection of Germán over Davy?
Yeah, man, it's interesting. Some of it probably has to do with service time and options. That's probably the answer. But yeah, man, like I'm just happy to see Germán back on the field. Like, in no way am I saying that he is the best human and that he didn't do anything wrong. But he got his punishment. He served his punishment, and he didn't. It's not like the Yankees came in to the spring training and said he's going to be back. He earned his way back. He had an unreal spring training, and he earned his spot in the roster. And I hope that he can pitch well enough to keep it.
Yeah, man.
He's young, so just give him the reps in AAA. Hopefully the numbers come, and hopefully he pitches so well that he gives the Yankees no options.
Yeah, man, I think that is obviously a big key, that Germán earned his way back based on how he pitched in spring training. And I was impressed with Garcia towards the back end of last year and in the little action he got in the playoffs. So we'll see what Germán could do. It's always good to have starting pitching depth. But we look at the Yankees offense, and Luke Voit is the injury with the meniscus. He's going to be out for, I believe, the first month of the season to start. But my question for you, Krinick, is this. I think it's pretty evident that the Yankees are going to be at the top of the AL East, and they'll be a playoff team by season's end. They've proven year in and year out that they could get to the playoffs. But at the same time, their pitching wasn't the reason why they lost in the playoffs last year. It was their offense. The bats just went cold again. What makes this lineup and this group of bats different than the Yankee teams of the past who, let's just face the facts, in the big moments in the playoffs, these bats have gone silent?
Yeah, man, there really isn't that much change. It's pretty much, we're bringing back the same exact lineup, pretty much. I think the only change is going to be, we'll have Clint in left instead of Gardner, and we'll have Jay Bruce to start the season at first. But hopefully it's just they gained another year of experience, and hopefully they're saying something to the likes of they hate losing, they don't want to do it again. Yeah.
I think that's going to be the number one storyline for me, man. Can these bats turn it on when they need to the most? Let's continue in this AL East. We have Tampa Bay, who they are the defending American League champions, but they lose a lot. They lose two really good pitchers in Blake Snell and Charlie Morton. They bring a majority of their bats back. I love the core of Arozarena and Lau and Meadows. But at the same time, Toronto, they got much better bringing in Springer. You also look at a team like Boston. They have another year of experience. Same with Baltimore. So I'll throw it over to Ack. Who's the better team, Toronto or Tampa, and why? He's got the hat, too. Love to see it.
So I'm going Toronto, and they showed in the offseason they made moves. They made the playoffs last year as a wild card. They're a good young team with the core of Bichette, Biggio, and Vladdy. And they just got better. They brought in Springer. He brings in that postseason experience, all-around center fielder who brings the power, and he's a good fielder too. They brought in Simeon on the one-year deal to play, I think, third. And their pitching is not bad. They just need a couple more guys to step up, to support Ryu. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Blue Jays hitting against the Rays pitching. And they're back in the bullpen. So it's going to come down to those to those two factors to determine who's going to come in second and third place in the division.
I'll say this, man. I think that Toronto did get better, and the fact that they were a playoff team last year, that impressed me, man. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, bro, could I trust a rotation of Ross Stripling, Steven Matz, Tanner Roark, and Anthony Kay? Could I trust that back end of the rotation to be the number one wild card in the American League like a lot of people are predicting? To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm really not.
That's the number one question right now with Toronto is their pitching, and they need other guys to step up besides Hyunjin Ryu and Nate Pearson, who I think is going to start off the season on the IL as well with an arm problem. So yeah, it comes down to Steven Matz, Anthony Kay, two homegrown Mets, and other guys need to step up, man. That's just how it is right now. You can't have two pitchers carry.
Mm-hmm. But then I look at Tampa Bay, man, and I'll say this. It's the opposite with them. I understand it sucked that they lose Blake Snell, but at the same time, you guys know in Tampa Bay, there's something about that water that they feed their pitchers. You could have these no-name pitchers come out of nowhere and just throw in 98 and be unstoppable to hit. So I'm going to say this. I tend to favor Tampa Bay right now over Toronto. I think that a lot of people are on the Acker bandwagon with Toronto. Their offense is really good. It should be really good. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I'm going to trust the championship nucleus of Tampa Bay to be the number 2 seed in the AL East. And I just love the core of this team, man. Wow, Arozarena, his first full season, we'll see how he does. Maybe it will be an adjustment. It's obviously going to be impossible for him to keep up what he did towards the back end of last season, but at the same time, I think he could be a starting MLB caliber player for the next 7 to 8 years. I think that could be his ceiling, and let's see what he could do for his first full year in the big league. So, Krinick, let me throw it over to you. Who do you favor, Toronto or Tampa, and why?
I like Tampa, man. Like you said, their pitching is just too good. I don't think, yes, they will take a hit losing both Charlie Morton and Blake Snell. But they brought back Chris Archer. They brought in Michael Wacha. So we'll see what they can do. Ryan Yarbrough is still around. We'll see what they can do. And that bullpen, like you said, they just bring in anyone. They just throw 98, 99 on the corners. It's ridiculous. And that the offense, they play small ball, and I absolutely love it. Troy is going to start the year on the IL, but they got Brasal, Yanni Diaz, or Tsugo to play first. Their defense is always good. Blue Jays, I still think they're too young.
I agree. How could we take that pitching staff in Toronto over this pitching staff in Tampa? I know the names don't look great, but let's just watch Chris Archer crush the soul of Pittsburgh Pirate fans and have an unreal season in Tampa Bay. Just watch it happen. Let's go.
Anthony Kay can do.
Yeah, I mean, you're laughing, but I think Anthony Kay, I think Anthony Kay is going to be better than Steven Matz. I'll say that. I trust him more than Steven Matz. I mean, maybe Steve just needs a change of scenery, but I don't know. But we'll see what happens. Any last comments on Toronto, Tampa?
I think for Toronto, it's going to come down to the deadline as well, because they could always trade for a pitcher and they could get a guy in there with experience, like Madison Bumgarner. I'm just going to put him out there. Bring him into the rotation. Let's see what happens in the end of towards July. You never know. But it's going to be a battle between those two teams for one of the wild card spots, maybe the division. You never know what's going to happen with the Yankees if they stay healthy or not. So let's see.
All right, moving on to Boston. I have the Red Sox finishing in 4th place, and I know last season was a disaster season for the Red Sox. Their pitching was just as bad as everyone expected. But I'll say this. I look at this lineup, and I'm looking at this kid, Bobby Dahlback, and I like what I'm seeing. I think finally we're seeing a little bit of the young talent in Boston. Maybe Jeter Downs will come up sooner rather than later. He was the top prospect they got in the Betts trade. But the main concern with Boston is their pitching. You look at these names, they bring in Garrett Richards, they bring in Nick Pivetta, Martin Perez. So when we look at this Red Sox team, is there any strong opinions on whether they'll be better or worse than they were in the 60-game short sample size last year?
They'll be slightly better, but the Orioles will be better than them.
Interesting. So let's go to Baltimore. Why is that?
They're just pretty much the last 2 seasons. They've just been playing their young guys. Like they have been tanking. I think everyone knows that. But like, dude, Trey Mancini's coming back, huge. And then they bring in Cal Franco. Freddie Galvis is still around. Rio Ruiz. They have Platoon, Cisco Severino. They've been around. And yeah, their pitching's all right.
Matt Harvey, man. Could I trust a team with Matt Harvey and some dude named Bruce Zimmerman? Does that guy, like, do we play softball with that guy, Bruce Zimmerman? Like, who the hell is that? Like, can I trust a team like that with that pitching to finish better than Boston? We'll see. You know, maybe the Red Sox pitching is just that bad, but man, Matt Harvey as your number 2 starter. What a way to start the season for the Orioles. But I agree with Krinick when you say that, look, they're playing their young guys over the last couple of years. Guys like Santander, Mountcastle, those are the guys that are making Oriole fans excited. Ack, any comments on Baltimore for you? Do you think they have reason to be excited there?
They have reason to be excited about the young guys they have, like Mountcastle, Santander, who had a good year last year, who's on my fantasy team, so I hope he has a good year this year too. And they have Adley Rush coming up soon, their number 1 prospect. So they're years away. Like, I don't think they're going to do anything this year. But like Krinick said, like, it's good they're playing their young guys, give them some experience under their wings, and we'll see what happens with them. But they're like a year or 2 away.
So
same thing with
2017, the team that came too early, but came to 4th place too early.
So we're all in agreement. Yankees are winning this AL East, Ack?
Yeah.
All right, so we all have the Yankees winning the AL East. Let's move on to the AL Central. And I think that when you speak of teams that arrived a little bit too early, I think this is a perfect segue for a team that I actually predicted on this podcast last year would win the AL Central. That's the Chicago White Sox. And I think that this season, a lot of people in the baseball universe are finally starting to realize, like, wow, these guys are legitimately good. It's time for these guys to make a legitimately deep run in the playoffs. I think they're a fascinating team because the season hasn't even started yet, and they're already dealing with adversity, losing a guy like Eloy Jimenez and the Tony La Russa hire. Who knows how that's going to work out? When we look at the White Sox, do you guys consider the White Sox a legit threat to possibly make a deep run in the AL playoffs?
Yeah. Look at the pitching they brought in. They brought in Lance Lynn. They brought in the back of the bullpen with Liam Hendricks. They already have Gio, who had a really good year last year. Keuchel's still there. Their offense is stacked. They have the reigning AL MVP in Abreu. Tim Anderson can flat out rake. Moncada's coming off a down year, but I think he'll be back to hitting around the 280 level. And their outfield, take away Jimenez, which is a really big loss for them. Luis Robert is a stud. The guy is insane. He's probably going to carry them. Andrew Vaughn, they say, could play in the corners. He's one of their top prospects. But yeah, this team they're deep.
I agree.
They want to win.
I agree, man. And I think
they can run the playoffs.
I think it really helped also that they got some playoff experience last year, losing a tough best out of 3 series in the first round to the Oakland A's. But I agree, Ack, this lineup is deep. And when you have a lineup of Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, Moncada, Robert, who we haven't even seen the best of him yet, man. Like, he was awesome last year, and it sucks what happened to Eloy, but maybe he'll be back by season's end. And I agree with what you said about the pitching as well. The fact that you bring in a guy like Lance Lynn, who is at the top of that Ranger rotation, and you bring back a guy like Giolito, who I think is one of the 5 to 10 best pitchers in baseball. I really like the direction this team is going in. And when you look at the American League, we obviously see the Yankees are very good, but there may not be many other teams with the same talent level as these White Sox.
You're right. The White Sox will most likely be the first place team in the Central. I mean, Rondell, Abreu, Tim Anderson has quietly led the AL in batting average. I think the past 2 years. Definitely this past year. And then like the pitching is insane. Like top three of Lynn, Keuchel, and Giolito. Like that's crazy. And then here's the question mark, which will make them even better. Will we see Michael Kopech?
I think a lot of White Sox fans have been asking that question for years, but we'll see. I agree, though. He could definitely be a big-time X factor, but even a guy like Dylan Cease, I remember watching him last year and really liking what I saw. They have some guys in the bullpen that not a lot of people have heard of that are really, really good. Aaron Bummer and Garrett Crochet. Like, those two guys are nasty. And I think the White Sox bullpen could be a big strength also, bringing in a guy like Hendricks, one of the best closers in baseball. This team is really good. Obviously, Tony La Russa was a very interesting hire. I'm curious to see how that ends up working out. Let's go to the Twins, because here's my question with these Twins, right? This is another team that brings back a good core of a team that from last year, they were really good. They won the AL Central, and they have that core of Kepler and Cruz, Polanco, Donaldson, Sano, Buxton. But at the same time, this team cannot win in the playoffs, and no one knows why. And I feel like at this point, everyone is kind of on the same bandwagon of, all right, like, they can't win in the playoffs. They could win in the regular season. The White Sox are just more exciting. They're just more talented. I think that the Twins are just another team to me. I think their offense could be really good, but at the same time, is anyone feeling this year could be a different year for the Twins than years past?
It's going to be the same as it was. Like, they're going to have, like, a pretty good regular season. And they may, like, get into the playoffs as a wild card, and then they're going to lose in the first round again.
They haven't won a playoff game in 20 years.
They haven't won they haven't got past the ALDS or since 2012, the wild card game in 20 years. Like, as old as all of us are. Like, it's insane.
And it's weird because they're in the playoffs every year. Like,
they've been in the playoffs a lot, and they've run to the Yankees. And look what happens. Yankees just beat them up. But, like, for the Twins, like, they lost Odorizzi, who's, like, a good starter for them. They bring back, what's his name? Barrios and Pineda. The offense is pretty much the same. They have a healthy Josh Donaldson, who's one of the top 10 third basemen in the league. So, could they win the playoff series? I don't know. I hope so, because I don't want to hear a 21-year drought. But, I don't know.
Krin?
We'll see what happens.
This Twins team can hit the ball. Okay, they could hit the ball and they could score runs. The problem I have is I don't know if they could score more runs than the other team. Their pitching has a lot of potential. I just don't think it's going to get there. I mean, like Ack said, Barrios and Pineda's there. Kenta Maeda is also there. They bring in J.A. Happ, who is, I think he had a solid season last year. Still have no idea what happened in Game 2, but try not thinking about that much. But he's all right. I think he had a really good year last year. So that's a solid. Pineda, we'll see how he's the potential guy. And they have Matt Shoemaker. He's another potential guy. And they have the Uber driver,
Randy Dobner.
He's another potential guy. So top 2 guys will be solid. Maybe even half he should be solid. So top 3 should be solid. And then they just got a lot of potential at that bottom. And the bullpen will be all right. They lost one of the killer T's in Trevor May, but they still got Taylor Rogers, still got Tyler Duffy, and Alex Colomé. Will be all right. Will be okay.
So when we look at this AL Central, I'm going to throw a first bold prediction at you guys. I understand that over the last couple seasons, Cleveland has been a team that has always been in the mix, and when you look at their pitching, especially Shane Bieber, Zach Plesac, most people will be picking them to be the number 3 team in this AL Central. But I'm actually going to go in the opposite direction because I think this Indian team, they're just trending in the wrong direction. They lose Lindor. They lost Kluber from a couple years ago. They lose Bauer from a couple years ago. Like, this team, I just can't see them being any good. And when I look at the Royals, and I'm telling you guys, this kid, Bobby Witt Jr., I know he's not up yet, but I think he could be an absolute star. I think he could be a special player. And I really like this lineup now. When you look at one of the more underrated lineups in all of Major League Baseball, I'm actually going to point to the Royals as one of those. Whit Merrifield is a guy that could play for my team any day of the week. Mondesi, same thing. Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler. They bring in Carlos Santana, and they have some young pitchers that not a lot of people know about that I think could be coming on. A guy in Brad Keller, a guy in Brady Singer, and even some others as well. I think that the Kansas City Royals are my sleeper to go like maybe 500 and finish number 3 in the AL Central over Cleveland.
Yeah, I do like the Royals. Cleveland will be interesting. They're another one of those pitching powerhouses, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, the Royals will be okay. I think they'll be in third. Like you said, their hitting is really good. They get back who I think is either the best or second best catcher in the game, in Salvador Perez. Just the way he impacts the game, by calling the games behind the plate, and then his timely hitting, his clutch hitting, it's going to be good to have him back for the Royals. And, hopefully Mondesi grows a little bit more this year, and hopefully we see the Royals take off a little bit.
Ack, how do you compare those two teams?
Yeah, so I feel like these two teams are going to be battling out for 3rd and 4th place in the division. I could see Cleveland, depending on how the season goes, play spoiler. I mean, not spoiler, seller. We'll see what happens, but Cleveland still has, pretty good pieces, man. They still have Jose Ramirez, who's an MVP candidate every year, studded 3rd. Franmil Reyes is coming back. Cesar Hernandez is solid at 2nd. They lost Santana, they lost Lindor, and they lost Carrasco. 3 leaders on that team who've been there since 2015.
That's my worry, man. That's a lot of guys.
Those are 3 big guys to lose. And then the Royals are trending up with Soler, Mondesi, Merrifield, Salvi, Perez, Bobby Witt's coming up soon. Their pitching is almost there. So yeah, the Royals, man, they could play spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
They could potentially break some hearts.
I agree, man. I think that Kansas City definitely a team to watch. One last thought on this division, on the Detroit Tigers. I just wanted to give a shout-out to the Detroit Tigers because unlike many other teams in their position this offseason, they actually went out and spent some money, bringing in Nomar Mazara, bringing in Robbie Grossman, bringing in Julio Teheran, Jose Urena. Not a lot of other teams did that. I think the Tigers are kind of in a similar boat to the Orioles where they're years away, but at the same time, they do have some young talent. Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal both going to be starting off the season in the rotation. Those guys are 2 guys I think could be future stars.
They also brought in Wilson Ramos, so under the radar kind of move, which I kind of like even though like he was like up and down with the Mets. Wilson Ramos is a decent guy to bring in, but they have young guys too. Spencer Torkelson is the number 1 pick. He's going to come up soon. Tariq Skubal, Casey Mize, Riley Green's another guy, and Akil Baddoo, who's a guy who's going to start the season on the team. So Detroit Tigers, like the Baltimore Orioles, they are years away, but they have young guys too. And I think the future is bright for some of those guys too.
You guys missed one important key. The Tigers, they're tanking. They're not tanking. They're trying to be competitive, but they don't have the roster to be competitive enough. But you guys missed out the last, arguably the greatest hitter in our generation, other than Albert Pujols and Mike Trout. They still have the guy who hit for the last Triple Crown in Miguel Cabrera, all right? He'll still be swinging the bat around. He'll still be getting his numbers. Maybe the average will be down a little bit. The strikeouts will be up a little bit. But he'll still be getting his runs in and his ribbies and his homers. So the Tigers will be competitive, so we'll see what happens.
All right, let's move on to the AL West. And I think that this is another division where this is a very wide open division. For the first one in a while, this could be a division where we could all pick different winners. And I'm going to throw this out there because Krinick throws his hat on. I'm picking the Angels to win the AL West. I think that they're a team that is due. And I understand Mike Trout, he hasn't really won in the playoffs, but it's time for this team to step up. They have the manager in Joe Madden. Ohtani's been in the league for a couple of years now. He's healthy. He knows what to do. Albert Pujols is going to be under contract for 1 more year. And when I look at the Astros and when I look at the A's, I just think those teams, they're all right, and they've made the playoffs over the last couple of years, but they're not perfect. I think it's time for the Angels to step up and take control of this division. They're my pick to win the AL West.
I mean, we'll see what they do. As you know, I love the Angels. I love their ace. I think he's probably their ace, Dylan Bundy. We'll see what he can do. I just don't trust their pitching enough, man. But like Dylan Bundy, he is solid. They bring in Quintana, so let's see what he can do. Alex Cobb is still around, and yeah, we'll see if Ohtani can pitch this year and not get hurt. That'd be fun to watch. They're hitting. I like it. They have a lot of experience on this team. A lot of experience. Rendon, they got Jose Iglesias, Pujols, Trout, Justin Upton's still around. Dexter Fowler came to town. Joe Adell, up and comer. He didn't have his best rookie year, but he will bounce back this year. I guarantee you that. And then they still have good defensive replacements in Juan Garrett and John Jay for pretty much all the outfield positions.
Ack, any thoughts on the Angels?
Yeah, so everything the man with the cooler Angels hat than me just said is totally true. The Angels, they're a really funny team because they have the best player in baseball and they haven't won. And that's not on Trout. It's because they're pitching and they haven't been making the correct. Now, when I say correct moves, that means they should have brought in a guy like Trevor Bauer.
Yes.
Now, that's what I think. Giving Rendon the bank is cool. Giving Pujols the bank 10 years ago was cool. Same thing with Josh Hamilton way back when.
C.J. Wilson.
C.J. Wilson, I could keep going on and on.
Yeah.
But they haven't made the right moves for them to go over the top of Houston and Oakland. Mm-hmm. And the Rangers when they could have.
Mm-hmm. So, who do you guys have winning this division? Are you guys on board with me or what?
Oh, man. So last year I said Houston was going to win the division and win 98 games. You know what? I'm still a believer. I'm still kind of a believer on Houston. And I'm a believer on Houston because of because of their offense, even though Verlander's out for the year with the Tommy John. Their offense is great, and they have so much experience, even though they lost Springer. Correa, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, they're getting Yordan back, and Kyle Tucker had a good year last year, and he's gonna be the starting center fielder. They also have Yuli. They are experienced. They can hit the ball. It's just gonna come down to that pitching staff. McCullers, they just signed to the extension, and the young guys like Urquidy, Christian Javier, and Forrest Whitley, who's gonna come up. I'm still a believer in Houston, and you know what? We've seen in the past they can make the deep postseason run. It's just going to depend on, hey man, could those guys rake the whole year and not go in slumps like Altuve did for like that little month?
Krinick?
That's my take on Houston.
Yeah, Ack, I'm with you. I got the Astros, man. Like I don't, and then I have the A's in second. I got the A's in second. I like this pitching, even though not everyone does. They will still get the job done. Greinke's still around. Odorizzi, he might start the year on the IL, but he is a solid arm. Lance McCullers, and yeah, Ack mentioned Urquidy and Javier. Their bullpen, they'll be okay. They'll be above average. They got Ryan Presley. They bring in Pedro Baez. And then Ryan Stanek, man, former opener for the Rays. We'll see how he gets used.
Mm-hmm. One point Krinick brought up that I totally agree with is I think for the first time in a while, the Oakland A's are another team that actually has a rotation of arms that they could rely on between Luzardo and between Bassett, who was really good last year, Montas, who was really good last year. Sean Manaea has been around a long time. They bring in Trevor Rosenthal in their bullpen. They lose Marcus Semien, but they do bring in Elvis Andrus to replace him. I think hopefully he could bring a similar level of play. I think Oakland for me is going to be as well my second place team. I think they're a wild card team for me. I'll take the Astros in third, but I'll say this. I think Seattle could be a team that I wouldn't be shocked if they somehow, some way find their way in the mix. Kind of similar to Kansas City, like 80 or 500.
Did you not see their executive go on some interview?
I know, I saw it. I just think this team has too much young talent to be this bad. No matter what their executives say, man, I think they could be a team that could surprise some people this year. I really do.
So yeah, that was a bad look. What he said.
You want to explain what he said?
I just want to see Krinick, man. I just want to see him play.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be the funniest thing ever because he's gonna be a star. And
Edwin Diaz is gonna continue blowing games. Yeah, we know.
Robinson Cano.
Two loyal Met fans are here, and you guys know from that trade that I've never been a fan of it, and look how it panned out.
Dude, he's gonna be.
That's what happens when you hire a bad GM. To be honest, like that's all it was, bro. Brody sucked.
That's what happens when you hire an agent as a GM.
Yeah,
it wasn't good, but yeah, like I think Krinick's gonna be a good player. As much as it hurts me to say that, and I like Krinick, I'm nothing against him. Kyle Lewis is a stud. Like he's gonna have another good year. The sleeper is Evan White. Evan White won the Gold Glove last year, and he showed up a little bit with the bat. I think he's going to be pretty good. Their pitching. They brought back James Paxton. They have Marco Gonzalez. They have Justin Dunn. Fourth place in the division, but I like their ceiling.
My guy Justin.
They have a lot of young guys there.
Mm.
Act. Don't sleep on my guy Justice Sheffield.
Justice Sheffield.
Plenty of former Mets and Yankees farmhands in the Seattle Mariner rotation. The one team we haven't mentioned yet, it's the Texas Rangers. And I think the Rangers last year in the 60-game season, I think you could make an argument they were the most disappointing American League team in baseball last year. And this year, I don't see it getting much better. I like a guy like David Dahl bringing in him, Nate Lau, an opportunity for him to play every day. But at the same time, when you compare the talent level of the Texas Rangers to some of the other teams, especially losing Lance Lynn, like Kyle Gibson's good, but if he's your ace, they're relying in guys like Fulton Nevich and Jordan Lyles in that rotation. I just think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, losing Lance Lynn and Corey Kluber, like two guys going into 2020. Oh, this is such a great rotation, and no, like Corey Kluber got hurt. Lance Lynn lived up to par. Jordan Lyles, no, Mike Minor was gone. So this team is just not going in the right direction. Even though they brought in Dahl, who's like a player who's still proven yet, who's still like proving to be good. They don't really have that other guy besides Joey Gallo in that lineup. Like Dick Solak, like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, won the Gold Glove last year, but I just don't see it fifth place.
Bro, fuck David Dahl. Okay, fuck that guy. And the reason is, I had this Rockies hat, all right? I almost decided to bring it on, but I didn't. I have this Rockies hat, and me, Kroll, and two of our other friends are at the Met game. We're in the section that's literally right next to the bullpen. And David Dahl was playing right field that night. So all night I was just yelling at the guy. Just like, yo, Mr. Dahl, can you sign my hat? It's a Rockies hat. Can you sign it? I just want your autograph. You're my favorite player on the team, which he was. And, because, I do like Trevor Story, but nah, man. I did like Dahl. And, just never said anything to me. Never came over. So fuck that guy. All right? But Joey Gallo, he's going to hit some balls to the moon. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So to recap, we all have the Yankees and the White Sox winning their respective divisions. Acker and Krinick have the Astros winning the AL West. I'm on the Angels. Now, for the wild cards, I'll throw it over to you guys. Who do you guys have as your two wild cards in the AL?
So first wild card. So I'm just gonna give you the teams that are in the mix first, and then I'll decide from there. Blue Jays, the Blue Jays and Rays, they're gonna be in the mix. I don't think the Twins, man. Not the Twins. Screw the Twins. I'm sorry. And
I agree.
Oakland. Those three teams are going to be in the mix for the wild card. Blue Jays and Oakland.
Krinick?
Nah, bro, this one was easy. Like I don't know what order, but it will be these two teams. It will be the Rays and it will be the A's. And it's not even going to be close. I mean, the Rays and the A's is going to be close to see which one's going to be 1 and 2. But in terms of the race for the two wild cards or the last wild card, it's not going to be close.
Now, that's interesting because I agree with you. I do think that Tampa and Oakland are going to be the two wild cards. But that's going to mean that I have the Astros missing the playoffs, and we're all in the same boat that the Twins are going to miss. So why are we all on the same page that the Twins, a team that has made the playoffs over the last couple of years, they're not going to make it this year? I think that they're just stale. They haven't shown us anything.
No, it's because they suck. That's why.
You say that, but they could rake, you know?
Yeah, but they can't score.
They can rake, but they can't win.
We'll see what happens. We all are in agreement that the other team's pitching will be the difference.
The bullpen's still solid. The bullpen is still very solid.
Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what happens in the AL. Let's go to the NL, and we'll start with the NL East. And I think that this division is going to be the most competitive division in baseball. I wouldn't be shocked if any one of the 5 teams in the NL East even make the playoffs because they all have their strengths. Now, what I will say is this. I think the Braves should be the favorite in this division. They have won the division each of the last 3 seasons. Their young players are getting better and better. I think last year they experienced a real playoff heartbreak for the first time, but you have the Mets in there and the moves they made. The Marlins made the playoffs for the first time in a while last season. You also have the Phillies, who are expecting big things. The Nationals, they have a lot of talented arms and a good core from that World Series team from a couple of years ago. So Acker, our resident Met fan, I'll throw it over to you. When you look at this NL East, what stands out?
First of all, props to you for having the same hat as me.
Oh, shit, I didn't even realize. Let's go, Ack.
All right. National League East.
Y squared.
Hey, let's go. National League East. I'm still a realist, and I still see Atlanta finishing at the top of the division. I just think they're the most talented team in that division, and one of the top 3 teams in the National League. Their lineup is stacked. Like, their lineup is crazy good. Freeman, Acuna, Albies, Dansby, Austin Riley. They bring back Ozuna, and even though they lost Duvall and Markakis, who's big leadership guy, clubhouse guy. They also Darno, another like disappointment from the Mets. So yeah, they're gonna win the division. I think it's gonna be close. They brought in Morton. They brought in Smiley. Soroka's going to come back. Ian Anderson, I'm big on him. So I just see this team running away, not running away, but they're going to win the division pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. The Braves, the lineup is ridiculous. Like you said, Ag. Darnell Rakes, Freeman, reigning MVP. Ozzy Albies, when he stays healthy, he is the top 5 second baseman in the league. Dansby Swanson, he may not always bring it with the bat, but he will always bring it with the glove, and he will always bring it with the swag. Austin Riley, up-and-comer, he is one of the great prospects, young prospects, playing in the game. They bring back Ozuna, he's a stud, he rakes. Acuna, we all know he's a stud and he rakes. And then Inciarte, he's still around to control center field. Pitching is going to be a little bit of a question, but they bring in Charlie Morton, so we'll see what happens. And that bullpen is still just really solid with a bunch of different guys. Like, they could use a different guy in a different situation every single day if they wanted to.
I'll say this. One thing that I think separates this Braves team also from some Braves teams in the past is I think their pitching is ready for prime time. I think a combination of Max Fried and Ian Anderson, 2 guys that really showed last year what they could do, and a veteran like Charlie Morton, I think that Braves pitching staff could be what ultimately puts them over the top along with that bullpen. I really do. And I agree with you guys. I think they win the division, and this is just a very talented team. I'm excited to see what they could do. Moving on to some other teams in this division, the consensus is the Mets are going to be the second-place team. I'm going to pick them to come in second, but to be honest, I'm not confident at all. I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets finish in 4th or 5th. I really wouldn't be, because there are plenty of reasons for this team, especially when you compare them to some of the other teams in the NL East. There are going to be plenty of possible things that could go down. I mean, last year, this team was very disappointing, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, the attitude is different, hopefully. Steve Cohen, hopefully that new era, the good vibes come in, along with Francisco Lindor. You bring in a guy like that, we know it's been a while since the Mets have really brought in a superstar like that in the offseason. And hopefully he could become that guy. Obviously, he's in contract talks right now. We'll, discuss that at a later date. But Krinick, I saw you shaking your head when I said, I don't see the Mets. I see the Mets coming in second, but I don't know how confident I am that they will. Who do you have coming in second, and why?
Dude, I like the Nationals, man. The Nationals are still just so solid on offense, and their pitching, I think, is still underrated, man. I still think they bring in John Lester to go along with the big three of Patrick Corbin, Max Scherzer, and Steven Strasburg. Eventually, we are going to have to see a decline in Max Scherzer's game. Will it be this year? I don't think so. Hopefully not. And then their bullpen is still just solid. Like, Brad Hand's around, Daniel Hudson's around, Kyle Finnegan's still around, Will Harris, he's around. They even bring in the vet Luis Avelad, so we'll see what happens. And then their lineup is just they could generate runs, man.
Let me say this though, dude. I think that if I were to pick a team that would overlap the Mets, though, I'm gonna say it's Philly, and I like Philly better than Washington. I think that even though I agree with you on Max Scherzer, I obviously think he's one of the 5 best pitchers in the game. I don't know how much John Lester has left. I don't know how much Joe Ross could give you, and especially when you compare those arms to some of the other arms and some of the other bats in this division, I actually like Washington to come in 5th, and this is what makes this division so interesting, is that it is that competitive, and really anything could happen. Ack, I'll throw it over to you. Do you have the Mets as the second-place team, and who else? How else do you see this division bringing down?
Yeah, so I have the Mets in second, but they could very easily come in third, maybe fourth, depending on how the season goes. It's just typical Mets. They have high expectations, then downhill from there. But the Mets, the Carrasco injury is going to kill them because Syndergaard's out. So they have to rely a lot. DeGrom's fine. Like, he's the best pitcher in baseball. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about Stroman, Lucchesi, Peterson, and who's he? I'm going to think of him eventually. But, like, they just need, like, some of those guys to step up and, like, eat those innings, man, because I do not trust
Taijuan Walker was the guy you were thinking of, by the way.
Taijuan Walker.
Yeah.
That's the other guy.
Yeah.
But, man, I'm still, like, not a believer in the bullpen.
Yeah, dude, and I think that rotation, especially at the back end, is what really worries me, man, because I think the Mets offense, while it could be very good, and we'll see how different it looks with a guy like Lindor in the mix, it still is very boomer bust potential. I think that when you look at Philadelphia, though, they are a team that has to win this year, man. And I still think that when you look at this lineup, they're still really talented. Bryce Harper, Real Muto, Hoskins, Boehm, Didi, and then their rotation, a top 3, I think is good. Noah, Wheeler, Eflin, but then Matt Moore and Chase Anderson. How much could you rely on those guys? You have the Marlins even. I think their pitching staff is one of the most slept-on rotations in baseball, and they have vets that could provide good at-bats. So I'll throw it over to you guys. When you look at the Marlins and the progress that they made last season in this tough division, do you see that carrying over? Because I am very intrigued to take them as the third-place team in this division over Philadelphia. I know the Phillies have talent, but they have done nothing but disappoint. I think that's the road I'm going down. I'm going to back the young Marlins starting pitching and the veteran bats.
So a lot of our friends are Marlins fans. Well, two of our friends are Marlins fans. And the question is, are the Marlins a fluke? They made the playoffs last year. Are they going to do it in a 162-game season?
Hey,
I don't think they're a fluke.
Friends, all right? They are not a fluke.
They are definitely not a fluke. And the reason they're not a fluke is those guys, Sixto, Alcantara, Elisier Hernandez, those guys are good.
And they're young.
And they're young, and they proved it last year. And their lineup, I'm a big fan of Bryan Anderson. I've said it in the past. I think he's going to be an all-star this year. But the guys around him, they brought in Adam Duvall, and I love that acquisition so much because the dude breaks. He was so good last year. They have young guys in Jazz and Monte Harrison. Starling Marte completes that outfield. Jesus Aguilar rakes, and he's done it in the past. I like the Marlins. I don't see them making the playoffs, sadly. But, hey, man, third place, very, very, very reachable for Miami.
How do you compare them to Philadelphia and Washington?
Marlins are in the basement. they're back in the basement.
Really? Why's that?
They're just too young, man. I think I'm not saying that this 60-game season was a fluke, but over 162 games, very different from 60 games. This, in my opinion, this is the most competitive division in all of baseball. Yeah, man. Like I just think the youth and inexperience will get to them. And yes, they have some vets, but when you look at their pitching, that's pretty much all their young guys.
Yeah, and I think that's very reasonable. Oh, go ahead, Ack, my bad.
Yes, I'm sorry. So for the rest of my division, I have the Mets in second. Miami could reach third, but I don't think they could. I think Washington's going to come in third. And because, like you said, their offense and their pitching, they have so much experience behind them, and they probably have one of the best hitters in all of baseball in Juan Soto. The guy could put it anywhere he wants. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. I don't think he's the 5-tool player. I think he's a 4-tool player because of the speed. But combine him with Trey Turner, and they brought in Schwarber and Josh Bell, two guys who could flat out rake. Nationals, man, they're tough. And they showed last year like losing Strasburg and Rendon, they weren't that good, but getting Strasburg back and getting those two vets in there, yeah, they're going to be pretty good. Philly's going to be there too.
Mm-hmm. Krinick, I know you're a big Philly guy. You know, what are your expectations on Philadelphia going into the season? It looks like they're going to be in for another disappointing season.
Yeah, man, we're going to be in for another disappointing season in South Jersey, but it's whatever. This lineup rakes, bro. It absolutely rakes, like you said. Bryce Harper, Bohm, Didi is still around. Gene Segura is still around. He's a contact hitter who can show off some power sometimes. Defensive replacement, my guy, Ronald Torreyes. They have the best catcher in the game, calling the games, in Real Muto. Rhys Hoskins, he rakes. And they got McCutchen back, former MVP, so he's a little bit older, but he still has the experience, and he still has some left in the tank. And we'll see what the young guy Adam Hazley does in the center field.
Mm-hmm.
Pitching rotation, I'm not that high on pitching, man. The top two is good. Everyone else, all potential, but we have no idea.
How do you compare them to the Mets? Who's better?
Oh, it's not even close. It's the Mets.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting.
The difference in that is when everyone is healthy, when both teams are healthy. Like right now, the Mets aren't healthy, so like right now, calling it right now, it's a little bit closer. But when the Mets get fully healthy, so like Carrasco's back and Lugo's back and Syndergaard's back, the edge is starting pitching, and then the bullpen for the Mets, not the best, not the worst, but it's better than the Phillies.
Mm-hmm. I think the key for the Mets is that starting pitching, man. If Noah Syndergaard and Marcus Stroman want to show us how good they are, it's time. Let's go, because the Mets put a lot of value into both of those guys and a lot of stock into both of those guys, and we'll see how it ends up. To recap, I think I'll have Philadelphia jumping the Marlins. Over 162 games, it's tough. I think that there's a chance that we could see Washington trade some pieces by the trade deadline. I'm not saying that they're going to trade Scherzer or Strasburg or even a Corbin if a team is willing to take that money.
They're winning. They're going for it, man. They just brought in Josh Bell. They're going for it. They got Ryan Zimmerman back. Starlin Castro is still around. Trey Turner, we know he's a great player. They bring in Schwarber. This team, they have the championship pedigree.
They do. This division's just so tough. All right, so that's our NL East. Any other comments, Ack? How about the Mets, man? How's this lineup going to be? Is it 2 home run or bust, or do you think that this Met lineup could succeed this year?
I think it's going to succeed, and like you said, it revolves around Lindor. I hope this guy doesn't become the highest paid shortstop, because he's not the highest paid shortstop, contract wise. But Mets lineup, it revolves around Lindor. I've said in the past that
not McNeil or Alonso.
Nah, I think McNeil is just the guy that gets on base, always timely hits. Alonso had a disappointing year last year, man. It was 60 games.
Lindor, though.
I get it, but at the same time, I think Lindor, given his resume, is more likely to break out. Let's see what happens, though. You're right. Lindor wasn't great last year.
The scenery is good for Lindor. He's made for New York. He's a switch hitting shortstop. He's got the smile. Everything around him says prime time. So I think it's gonna start and end with him. But the guys around him, Pete, Dom, McNeil, Conforto, Nimmo, they brought in McCann, so we're gonna see how he does.
Flaming hot take right now. Stroman's gonna suck.
He was disappointing, dude. He hasn't pitched in a year, and he wasn't great the last time he pitched. It's totally reasonable. That's very possible.
I don't think he's gonna win the Cy Young, but I don't think he's gonna be terrible. I think he's gonna be all right. Listen, he's the number 2 right now behind DeGrom. So if the guy could just go out and pitch 5 or 6 innings, give up 1 or 2 runs, strike out 7, I'm fine with that. Just keep doing that. That's fine. That's all I want. Nothing more, but nothing less.
Mm-hmm. So we all have the Braves winning this NL East. Let's go to the NL Central. This is a division where last year it was very wide open throughout. They had a bunch of playoff teams. I'm going to take the Cardinals to win this division. This is a team that all they do is win, and they have some star power. Arenado comes in. Goldschmidt. I think you combine that with some of the younger guys like a Tommy Edman, like a Dylan Carlson. You have the pitching, hopefully, with Jack Flaherty. Adam Wainwright's back. These are just the Cardinals, man. They're a vintage Cardinal team. I don't think the NL Central is the strongest division, especially when you consider everything that's going on with the Cubs. We'll get to them in a second. I'm very disappointed in them. But I have the Cardinals taking this NL Central. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think that this division is funny because I think it's between 3 teams. The Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Cubs.
Really?
Sorry. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Explain.
Maybe 4. We'll see what the Reds do. But I think the Cardinals are going to win the division. Arenado's going to take him over the top. He's one of the best third basemen in baseball. They get Goldie's a stud. They lost Colton Wong. They lost Dexter Fowler.
I don't know if it's Dexter Fowler, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you give a guy like Dylan Carlson more of a chance, I think that could help them. I do.
Carlson is good, man. He's a pretty good fielder, and he could also hit. Bader and O'Neill, those are 2 guys who are really good in the field. Could they hit? We'll see. Yachty. They get Yachty back. He's the clubhouse guy. He's been there forever. I'm a Met fan. I don't like Yachty or Molina.
Yep.
But the pitching, they're starting off the season with 3 guys on the IL. Michaelis, Kim, and Dakota Hudson. But they have the horse and Wainwright. Jack Flaherty's a beast.
Yeah, I think if those guys get healthy, man, watch out. I think they're the most well-balanced team in the division.
I think this is the Cardinals' division to lose.
Krinick?
Yep.
That's just how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go Cardinals.
Now,
the Reds, man. The Reds.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be second place.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Explain why.
The lineup rakes. It rakes. The pitching is okay. They're going to be worse, losing the reigning Cy Young and Trevor Bauer. But, man, this team rakes, and they've been falling behind. And so falling behind very early in the first 3 innings, very often in spring training. And they have, and I'm talking about by like 5-6 runs. And they battle back every time. Whether they win that game, who cares? It's spring training. But they do battle back every single time. That team can put up some runs. And that pitching staff is still pretty solid. They got Luis Castillo still around. Sonny Gray is still around. Wade Miley is around. And the bullpen's solid. They got Amir Garrett in there. Sean Doolittle in there. Jose De Leon is in there. And Michael Lorenzen, he's going to start the season on the IL, but he is a very solid pitcher. And Michael Lorenzen.
So
that's why they're going to be in second.
I have the Reds in third. And the reason why I have the Reds in third isn't so much that I'm a huge fan of them. I think the Cubs are a team that is trending in the wrong direction. Their owner flat out basically told us he doesn't have winning as his number one priority based on a lot of the moves he made this past offseason. And when I look at this lineup, I know they brought in Jock Peterson. I get it. But like Chris Bryan and Anthony Rizzo and Wilson Contreras, like they're good and they'll win their fair share of games. But I don't know. I think I could see a team like the Reds, given that lineup, given their ability to come back. Their pitching isn't terrible. And I think Milwaukee's better than the Cubs too. I think that Christian Yelich is going to have a bounce back season. I think for the first time in a while, Milwaukee actually has some young pitching that they could get excited about. I am out on the Cubs. That's a team I'm selling stock in.
Yeah, so looking at the Cubs, I don't know how those guys, Javi Baez, hit under 200. Nice job.
You want me to guess toast?
No, bye. You want to guess toast. I don't know how a guy like Javi Baez hits under 200. He's talented enough, he's that talented you can't hit under 200. Cubs lost Quintana, they lost Yu Darvish, and they lost John Lester. Chris Bryan, Anthony Rizzo, and Javi Baez are going to be on the block if the Cubs don't start well. And Wilson Contreras is not on the block because he's one of the best up-and-coming catchers in the game. The Cubs are going to finish fourth.
I agree.
And it's because they lost all those pieces, even though they brought in Jock, and I love Jock. I just, even though they have good players, I just don't see them competing with the Reds, the Brewers, and the Cardinals.
Agreed. Krinick, any thoughts?
Dude, how are the Brewers going to score runs? That's the one thing I don't get.
Well, they did bring in a guy in Colton Wong who gets on base, good hitter. They also are just expecting a lot from Lorenzo Cain. He didn't play last year. Yelich, Hiura, they bring in Jackie Bradley. Their offense isn't the best, but at the same time, I don't think you need to be that good in the Central to win games.
I mean, yeah, but this isn't the NL Central. This isn't the 60 game. You're only playing the region and your division anymore. You're playing everyone again. So, I don't know, man. When they play they're going to play the NL East. They're going to play the NL West. When they go over there, they're going to get outranked, in my opinion.
Ack?
Their pitching is good, though. Their pitching is good.
That's why. I think their pitching is improved.
Yeah, so I like the pitching in Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns.
They have probably the best reliever in the game.
Yeah, and they have the two-headed monster in Josh Hader and Devin Williams. I'm going to say right now that Devin Williams has the nastiest changeup in baseball. From a reliever standpoint, Luis Castillo has the best changeup for a starter. But Christian Yelich is going to have a bounce-back year, and I'm not just saying that because he's on my fantasy team. But I think he's going to have a bounce-back season.
Mm-hmm.
Keston Hiura is going to play first. And I still think he could bring it.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how he adjusts.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how we know Jackie Bradley is a great defender wherever he plays. I'm sure he could play catcher and be the best catcher of all time too. But man, like he doesn't really bring that much on offense. Like he's a speed guy. He's there. He gets on base. He's going to run a lot. But he doesn't bring any. And he could get a hold of one every now and then. But like a lot of strikeouts, very low batting average, very low on base percentage for when you compare him to other outfielders.
Mm-hmm.
But he will get great defense and rating.
Mm-hmm. One last thought on this division: the Pirates. I think there is a very good chance they will be the worst team in baseball. I think that they have a young stud in Bryan Hayes, but besides that, when you look at this Pittsburgh Pirate team, the largest contract they've ever handed out was to Jason Kendall in 2000. Their fans deserve better, and if I was a Pirate fan, I'd be very frustrated, man. It's not like this organization cares about winning.
Hey, Jason Kendall was a great player, all right? He was a great catcher.
20 years ago, though.
Yeah, no. I don't know what's going on there. They're stuck in the basement. They just got rid of Josh Bell. They sold off Marte, 2 years ago, this past deadline. But no, they got this. My guy, Bryan Hayes. We'll see what he can do. Colin Moran is going to be all right. Cole Tucker is in the farm. He's going to be a stud. So, if you're a Pirates fan, you probably hear this every year for the last, as Kroll said, 20 years. Probably even longer than that. Just wait a couple more years. The time will come.
All right, so let's go to the NL West now as we close this one out. The Dodgers and the Padres, these are two teams that a lot of people are expecting to be two of the better teams in the National League. The Dodgers finally win the World Series. Congratulations. It was a long time coming. The fact that it took this long was shocking, but hey, they finally got it done. But here come the Padres, a team that is young. They're up and coming. I'll ask you guys, can this Padre team live up to the hype? Because they're getting a lot of it, but even though they have some names we like, they're still unproven. They got some playoff experience last year, winning the first series against the Cardinals. But at the same time, could this Padre team live up to the hype? What do you think?
Yes, sir.
So here's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the 18 games the Dodgers and the Padres play against each other. The Padres are going to rake against everyone else. Like, I'm not worried about what the Padres are going to do against anybody else. It comes down to what they do against the Dodgers. Could they beat the Dodgers? I don't think they could beat the Dodgers. Like, I just think the Dodgers are a far and superior team than them, mainly because of their pitching staff. But the Padres, man, they went out and they're like, you know what? I want to go out there and beat the Dodgers. Like, this is all to beat the Dodgers. They brought in Darvish, they brought in Blake Snell, and they added relievers. Like, those guys along with Lamet, who I think is having shoulder problems. I'm not quite sure. Like, those guys are gonna head that rotation. And Slam Diego, man, they rake, and they rake a lot and often. That left side of the infield is insane. Hosmer's there, leadership, experience. Cronenworth had a really good rookie year. Their outfield is solid in Pham, Grisham, and Will Myers. They have pretty much the same team on offense. It's just they just improved on pitching a lot. It's going to come down to those 18 games, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Krinick, how about you? What are your thoughts on this division?
I don't even know, man. I'm just disappointed in my D-backs, man. Should have been so good. Like, they traded away Greinke, they traded away Robbie Ray. Like, we could have had the three horsemen of Greinke, Ray, Bumgarner, man. Trade away Goldschmidt. Did they trade Marte? I think they did trade Marte.
Yeah, they traded Marte.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, man, they were disappointing last year. And I'll say this, I have the Giants as the third-place team in this division. I think they're a team that actually showed last year. They have some young players that are worth getting excited about. Yastrzemski is an absolute stud. Out of nowhere, Donovan Solano has a sick season. Mauricio Dubon, that is going to be a kid to watch. That guy could hit. He's a young player I really like. Kevin Gausman and Johnny Cueto at the top of the rotation. Some good veteran experience. I think the Giants are the third-place team for me in this division.
Whoa. Nah, give me the D-backs still.
Really?
Like,
Can they overcome last year's disappointment, though?
they got Ash Krabs, they got Ketel Marte, Nick Ahmed Krinick, Eduardo Escobar Krinick, my boy Tim Locastro, arguably the fastest man in the league. Cole Calhoun is still around. And yeah, their pitching's all right. I mean, they got Zach Gallen. He's going to start the year on the IL, it looks like. Look for your boy Madison Bumgarner to have a comeback season and lead this young pitching staff to a third-place finish. The bullpen, it's all right. They got Joaquin Soria, the veteran, as the anchor, probably. They got former Met, I believe, Anthony Schwarzak in the bullpen. Tyler Clippard, what a guy. What team hasn't he been on?
All right,
Oh, yeah.
So one last thought on this division, and then we'll do World Series picks and get out of here. If I was a Rocky fan...
Back to the basement.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I would be super disappointed, man. Like, they give Arenado money, and then they just trade him right away. Like,
He was going to opt out anyway.
I get it, but at the same time, like, that's another team that's... I understand it's hard to pitch at Coors Field, but that's another team that's just been super disappointing, in my opinion, you know? Like, that was another core. Krinick, you mentioned it about the D-backs, bro. Like, if they would have had Greinke and if they would have had Marte, like, this team could have been really good. Think about all of the talented players the Rockies have had in recent years that have just not been able to get the job done.
Nah, man.
Take Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon out of that equation, and I would agree with you.
But I'm saying win games. Like, why can't this team win games? Like,
because their pitching isn't good, and even though they have German Marquez, John Gray, and Antonio Senzatella,
What part of their pitching? That's the key, because like German Marquez is pretty solid. Kyle Freeland, what was it, 2018? He had that sick year.
Yeah.
That was solid. Chichi Gonzalez. That's going to be a name to remember this year, all right? And Antonio, how do I pronounce this guy's name?
Senzatella?
Yeah, that guy. John Gray's still around. He's a solid vet.
Mm-hmm.
That bullpen is atrocious. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. All right, as we close
Down the middle.
the show, we have about a minute left. Just want to say, once again, thanks, guys, for joining me. I want your World Series picks and quickly award winners as well. I'll start it off. I have the Braves beating the White Sox in the World Series. I have Trout and Acuna as my MVPs, Giolito and DeGrom as my Cy Youngs.
All right. So I'll start off with the awards, and then I'll give my picks. So MVP, I have Arenado,
Wow.
NL MVP, and in the American League, I'm just gonna say it. I know you said it last year. Give me a healthy Aaron Judge to win MVP.
Wow.
I'm just gonna say it right now. Cy Young, DeGrom, and in the American League, shoot, that's tough. American League. I don't want to say Cole, but I think Glass now has a pretty good shot at it.
All right. And what about the World Series?
And the World Series, I think what's it called? I think I'm going to see a Dodgers Astros rematch again. I think the Dodgers are going to win.
Wow. All right, Krinick, 15 seconds, quickly.
Fuck you, Ack. Yanks over Braves. Trout, for sure.
The audio cut out at the end, but Krinick did have Mike Trout as his MVP. He had to go right after that. I just wanted to say, love baseball. It's so nice to have a 162-game season back in the mix, and there's nothing better than just each and every day checking that schedule, checking who's pitching, and who's getting the job done. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.